Hi everyone, Angus Campbell here. Christmas Eve 2021. I thought I'd squeeze in a quick video before the festive break. It's been a few weeks now since we kicked off some of the sort of shakedown repairs on the Fury SS behind me, and there's been a bit of progress since then, so let's get back onto that and do a quick recap before and then do a quick wind up. So in the last part to this, we stripped the gearbox and found a problem with primarily third gear on the lay shaft, and the reason why it's taken me a little bit of time between then and now is because I've been tapping up potential manufacturers of gears to see if they'll undertake the job of manufacturing what I require, which is primarily third gear on the lay shaft, sorry, but also I'm asking them to manufacture third gear on the main shaft as well, because I'm one short gear wise of that gear in having a spare gearbox, or a spare set of gears I should say, for both main shaft and lay shaft. So I've been touting up a few potential manufacturers, including one in Leicester that I used originally to have some gears made up, who now say they can't make them up, which I don't necessarily believe. I just think that a lot of these companies are actually swamped with quite a bit of work at the moment. I'm in touch with a number of companies in Stoke-on-Trent at the moment, one of whom, DP, that's DEPE, are being very helpful in trying to suggest companies that can do this as a niche job, or alternatively, if I'm not having much success, they've said that they'll reconsider doing it themselves. It's not going to be cheap, but then nothing is when you're doing one-off jobs like these, which need to be done. So I'll be carrying on with that, but in the meantime we can focus on the major other sort of issue that we found with respect to the latest test runs, and that is what appears to be an oil leak coming from the cam tunnel head joint. So we're going to investigate that today. The other thing just to mention, the other thing that I've been focused on as well is that considering where the next project's going to come from next year, and I think I've managed to tie something down, so hopefully we'll have an announcement in the new year, but I'll provide a few more details perhaps when I do a bit of a sort of stable roundup, probably Christmas week before the new year as well. But certainly, once we get to a position as far as we can with respect to the Fury here, pending us being able to secure the new gears, then on the Rocket 3 here we need to do a bit of a top end rebuild, but again, I won't go into details on why. It's not serious, but something's worn up there somewhere, and I'll show you how we came about that when we were filming for the Classic Motorcycle channel. We noticed at high revs that it was blowing quite a bit of smoke, and I've got a video to prove that, but we'll come on to that in due course. So early next year we'll do this job on the Rocket 3 as well. So we've got a bit to do, but all's well in general. And before we kick off, just thanks to any new subscribers, and as always, thanks for the comments, everyone. I always enjoy them. Everybody's got their own point of view, opinions and suggestions, etc., and they're all very welcome regardless, so thanks for that. Right, let's get set up, and we'll look into what we need to do to get access to the appropriate area in the cam chain tunnel. So from the last video, I've already got the cam timing cover off, and that's because we need to position the crank properly so that the cams are in a certain position at the top here where there's actually no pressure on the chain. There is a position you can do that because just to remind everyone that you can remove the cams on this design by just taking the chain off and the retainer and pulling them out this side. But obviously to do that they've got to be in a certain position, both in a position whereby there's no sort of valve spring pressure on any of them, and there is a position to do that. So the other thing we need to do then is we'll just take this cover off, and I'll just briefly explain again the cam timing. Right, here we are again at the top end of the motor. So what I suspect is happening is that oil is seeping from this joint here in the cam tunnel. Now, as I mentioned in the last video, there are currently two screws right down here, one on this side and one on that side, that screw into here and here respectively. And the thing is, at the moment they're just set screws in there, obviously Loctited, but you can't really, get a reasonable torque on them. They're UNC, so they're nice coarse thread. So I'm going to change those for hex heads, just so we can tighten that down a little bit more. The problem is that in the parts book, as I said before in the last video, you can see the drillings for these two screws, but it doesn't show you actually what they intended to put in there. They're just not there. So that's what we'll do anyway. We'll swap out those crossheads for hexes. So which is a start. We'll also do a bit of looking around to see if we can see from the inside, once we remove the chain and the tension, etc., if there's anything obvious where we can see on the inside of this joint, or even if there's a bit of porous casting. The other thought as well is that at the back of the motor, which you can't see at the moment, around the back here, is the external oil pipe for the pressurized feed up to the head. And I know that the bottom union of that is a little bit loose, and I'm waiting for some open end flare spanners to come at Christmas tomorrow to fix that, because you just can't get in there. Let me just spin this round and see if I can show you with all the light, etc. So there's the pipe, and right down in there is a flare nut. There's a little olive against the pipe, etc. It's not a very good shot, but as you can see, because of the starter motor, you just can't get anything in there without taking the starter motor off, which I don't particularly want to do. Now, I know that's leaking, and it just needs tightening up. But the thing is, it's quite low compared to where we're getting oil out of the head, which is round about. Let's just move it back a little bit. There we go. It's definitely dripping off the top fins of the barrel and the lower fins of the head. So I'm pretty sure it's coming from here somewhere, but it's quite a big flow. But you do get an awful lot of oil up here, and you can see this. Still pools of it around here, because there's an awful lot that goes up to the head. And as we've said before, one of the original problems they had with the early development motors was that they couldn't get the oil away fast enough from the heads, and it was just actually swamping everything at the top, hydraulic and God knows what. So they had to redesign the head slightly to put some bigger oilways in, and I'll just again show you those when I take the cams out. So we'll rotate the crank until these firstly the marks line up on the crank pinion and the idle gear for the cam chain at the bottom. And what that will do as well is line up a certain tooth relative to the notch against a couple of V marks on the camshaft retaining plate. And I made a note of these when timing before, and that is the exhaust. It's the 5th tooth clockwise from the inner notch. 1, 3, 4, 5, so somewhere around about there, so we're not far off at the moment actually. And then inlet 1st tooth anti-clockwise from notch, so that's going to be either there or there. But anyway, we'll mark them up once we've got the crank in the right position, because we know the valve timing is correct at the moment. Right, so what I need to do first is get that in the right position. Then we know there's no valve spring pressure on the cams and the buckets, and then we can remove that bolt which goes all the way through with a nut on the other side, and take out the lower pivot of the chain tensioner on all this, and the chain, well, this will come out, the chain tensioner, slipper tensioner, and then we can actually take the chain off and move it over to one side, and then we can get down into the tunnel. That's what we want to do. Right, that's the crank in the right position, so just in there, there's a little punch mark on the crank pinion on the tooth, which is now lined up with this idler pinion, and at the top you can see more clearly here the V's that are punched into the cam retaining plate. Now the cams aren't punched, these were blank, so what we've done to line up, and you can't see it very well from this angle, is one tooth anti-clockwise from the notch. It does actually line up with that. Oh, you can't see it because of the way I've got the light, but take my word for it, from about this angle you can see it's lined up. And similarly this one, that's the 5th tooth clockwise from that notch. So that's how I time it up. Sorry for the unsteady hand. There we go, that's better. So what I can do now then, the cam chain is slack, and it does need tensioning as well, so it's stretched a little bit with the running, but that's okay. I'd expect that. Undo that bolt, then down the bottom here, that's the lower pivot for the what they call the weller tensioner, which is a big slipper tensioner that goes around here, and all that will come out once we undo those, and then we can get the chain out of the way, and then we can have a bloody good look down that tunnel. Right, just to quickly show you, so I've got the slipper tensioner free, so you can push it right over. That gives you enough slack in the cam chain to be able to take the chain off the sprocket of the exhaust camshaft, he says. There we go. And what you can do then is take the alley spacer out from the tensioner, which lets the chain go all the way through the tensioner, and then with a bit jiggery pokery, it is a bit tight down there. I have to take the chain up a little bit. I have done this before. Doesn't want to come, and I don't want to force it. So give me a minute, I'll just need to take a torch and have a look down the tunnel and see what's going on. There you go. It's easy when you get a torch down there and actually see what on earth you're trying to do. So we've got access now, and you can see the cams are quite free when you've got everything in the right position. And as I say, we've got the notes to be able to time that up properly when we put it back together. So we can just leave the chain on each side, and let me just show you the screws in question again. There you go. There's one screw, and there's one the other side as well. Just bear with me a sec while I just move this chain over the other side. And there's the other one under the other slipper, which is just a hanging guide. Really, it's not a tensioner, just that chain guide there. So all we need to do to remove that is just undo this top pivot screw there. So we'll take that out as well, and then we'll take those two screws out. And also you can see from this side the joint, effectively the head joint, that we just need to have a quick look at. Now the reason I originally put screws down there, you can see I've removed the left hand one but not the right, is because that was in keeping with, you know, the screws at the base of the barrel on this side, which is correct because those are actually shown in the parts book, but these two are not. But the reason now, I think, is because there's not enough room to get a socket around a hex bolt or set screw there, so I think we're probably going to have to persevere. But now we've got everything out the way, then it does give us a bit more access to be able to get something on these to tighten them up properly. That rear one, to be honest, I've just put another half a turn on it by hand, so it was a bit slack. The front one was I think was a bit alright, but I've got an idea that I might be able to use a bit of an extension on an impact driver just to try and, you know, get a bit more torque on these, because they can take it. I can't see anything obvious. Obviously we've got the joint there, which doesn't look too bad to me, and there is an O-ring in that joint. It's not, you know, just there's no gasket, but it's not just metal faces either. There's no O-ring in there as well, and I did use a bit of sealer on there. And I can't see anything obvious. If you shine a torch from the other side, nothing comes through, but I'm pretty sure it's from around there somewhere, and it's emanating. And it was coming out, you know, at a reasonable pace, so it's not porous castings. The other thought I had was, when I was taking this apart just now, is whether or not it could be going through the mounting bolt hole for the chain tensioner. But I don't think so. Looking on the other side, it's not that wet, and it does have a Doughty washer on the other side to try and seal that. So yeah, let's get these back in there and torqued up a bit more and see how we get on. Right, this should do it. So I've got the old impact driver taken off its usual adapter for small size bits, but then use a couple of adapters out of my big socket set, which will enable me then to put that adapter on there, and then to use any of these bits on here. So we'll choose the right one that's a really nice tight fit, and right, I think that should sort it out. We've got plain washer, spring washer on those, and we'll put a bit of Loctite on those screws as well, because I think as Bob said when he was machining some of this stuff, he wasn't happy about those being in there at all. If they get loose and get wrapped around the or drop in the cam tunnel and get wrapped around the bottom there, it could be carnage, and he's absolutely right. But anyway, that's the design. Let's get on with it. Right, I think I found the problem. When I first torqued down the screw, sorry the light's not too good, I could still get my fingernail underneath it. It was slightly too long. Although I've been measuring up the hole size, obviously I can't determine very well how far down the hole the thread goes, actually in the barrel side. And so I've shaved some off that, and it's tightened it down really well now with the impact. And although you won't be able to see it very well because there is a ledge here, so it makes it look as though the crack is wider than it is, but I can tell that's an awful lot better. I used to be able to get my nail in before, I can't now. So I'm pretty encouraged by that. So hopefully we've made some progress with that. The other good news as well is obviously inspecting everything internally, it's all pretty clean. There wasn't any shavings of metal etc. in the pool of oil here. The bottom end similarly, and the timing cover. So we'll button all this end up now, and we'll take it from there. Oh, I was just going to show you again. I know some of you have seen this in the past with the build videos, but there's a couple of oil drains from the head on this side, and there's a similar two on the other side. You can't see them from here, they're behind the chain, the other side of the sprocket. So and believe you me, there is an awful lot of oil gets pumped up to the cylinder head and has to drain out, hence all the drain oil waste. Right, so what I'll do then is obviously time up the cams, put the chain back on, tensioner etc, timing cover on the bottom, and then hopefully that will be this side sorted out. And I'm going to tidy this bloody mess up here, but what I'll probably do as well is put the covers on loosely on the gearbox, just to keep muck and stuff out of that. And then we'll put the Fury to one side to await how we get on with getting some gears manufactured. Anyway, so let's button this up first, and then we can close everything down for now. Right, the trick when putting this back together is to get the main Weller slipper tensioners in first before you put, you know, the chain slipper on this side. That gives you enough room to put the chain right over to the other side to get this Weller tensioner arm down here, because it has to go as far as its sort of spindle point there. So spindle's in, tensioner's in. So now we can get the slipper tensioner in on this side, which just hangs from the top like so, and you can see it's got a little rubber buffer on the bottom, and it just hangs down from a pivot bolt there. Right, chain and tensioners all in, tensioned up, and timing marks still in the correct place. You might just be able to see them there. There's not too much light, but quite well tensioned up. And as you know, on the cover here, cam chain cover here, there is a tension on that cover for the top run here, so this doesn't lash about, although it won't really, it's quite nice and tight. Right, cover's on then, and I think we're done. Right, there we go. Cam cover on, timing cover on, and I've just loosely replaced the gearbox covers, pending sorting out the gears. So she'll be suspended a little bit, but we'll get on to the Rocket 3 next in the new year, and I will be back for another video, possibly in Christmas week, but certainly probably on New Year's Eve for a quick stable update. So without further ado, from me and the power set, I wish you all a very Merry Christmas and a safe one too, and I'll see you all again soon. And obviously thanks for your continued interest, subscriptions and comments. See you again soon. Cheers everybody. Bye bye.